So welcome to my video on the law of cosines. In my previous video I explained to you how to solve a triangle using the law of sines, and that's probably the first method that you should use to solve a triangle. However, there's some particular cases when you can't solve a triangle using the law of sines and you need to use the law of cosines. So I'm going to explain to you when you need to use the law of cosines and how we use it. So one case when we need to use the law of cosines is if they give us two sides. Let's say they give us side A and C, and they also give us the angle in between those two sides. And notice how angle B is in between the two sides that are given to us. So if that is the type of triangle that's given to you, then you need to use the law of cosines to solve the triangle. And one more case where you have to use the law of cosines is if you're given all three sides of the triangle. You're not given any angles, and you're just given all of the sides of a triangle. In this particular case, you have to also use the law of cosines to solve the triangle. So that is my brief introduction, and let's get started right away with an example. Alright, so let's say we're given a triangle, and we know that the bottom side of the triangle is equal to 12 units. Let's say that we have another side of the triangle and we know that it has a distance of 9 units, and let's say that we know that this angle in between those two sides, let's say we know that this angle is 50 degrees. Alright, so like I said before, we're given two sides, and we also know that the angle in between those two sides is 50 degrees. So for this particular case, when we're given two sides and the angle in between, we know that we need to use the law of cosines. Alright, so let's label our triangle. Let's say that this angle is angle A. Let's say that this angle is angle B. We'll say that this angle is angle C. And we know that the side that's opposite of angle A has to be side A. So we know that the side of a length 9 is our side A. And we know, since our top angle is C, we know that the side that's opposite of angle C, which is the bottom side, has to be our side C. So our side with the length of 12 is our side C. And we know that the side that's opposite of angle B is equal to our side B, which we don't know the length of that side yet. Alright, so now that we've labeled our triangle, now we're ready to plug everything into our law of cosines formula. And I wrote all the formulas on the right hand side of the screen, and all the formulas are exactly the same. You can use any one that you want based on how you labeled the triangle. Because the way I labeled the triangle, we're missing side B, I'm going to use this formula that has a B on the left hand side because that's what we're trying to solve for. We're trying to find our B, so I'm going to use our B formula. But everybody labels their triangle differently. You don't have to label it the same exact way that I did, so it's possible that you could use any one of these three formulas. But alright, so let's plug everything in to the formula that we know. Once again, we're going to use this second formula right here. So that formula says that B squared is equal to A squared, and we know that our A is equal to 9, so instead of A squared I'm going to put a 9 squared, plus C squared, and we know that our C squared is equal to 12, so instead of C squared I'm going to put a 12 squared, minus 2 times A. Once again, we know that our A is equal to 9, times C, we know that our C is equal to 12, all multiplied by the cosine of the angle B. And we know that our angle B is equal to 50 degrees, so I'm going to put the cosine of 50 degrees. So now that we've plugged everything in, let's try and simplify this a little further. So we know that B squared is equal to 9 squared, which is 81, plus 12 squared, which is 144. And this is all being subtracted by 2 times 9 times 12 times the cosine of 50. And if you plug that into a calculator, that is all going to equal 138.8421. I rounded to 4 decimal points because all intermediate steps I always round to 4 decimal points. Alright, so let's simplify this even more. We have b squared is equal to 81 plus 144, which is equal to 225, and this is being subtracted by 138.8421. If you subtract 225 minus 138.8421, we know that b squared is equal to 86.1579. So now we know the value of b squared, but we need to find the value of b. We need to find the length of b. So if we know what b squared is, it's quite easy to find b. B is just going to be equal to the square root of b squared. So b is equal to the square root of 86.1579, and you need to plug that into your calculator. And the square root of 86.1579 is equal to 9.3. I rounded to 1 decimal point. I always round my final answers to 1 decimal point. So we know that our side B has a distance of 9.3 units. And I'm not going to solve the rest of this triangle for you just to save you a little bit of time. You don't need to use the law of cosines to finish solving this triangle. That would take you a lot of extra time. You could actually use the law of sines, which is a bit quicker. If you haven't seen my law of sines video, I'm going to make a link for you in the bottom right hand part of the screen. And I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any extra questions, leave a comment below, and I will see you in my next video.